She will never say this out loud, but there is one psychological trigger that can quietly hijack her mind, and once it's planted, she cannot stop thinking about you. Not because you chased her, not because you impressed her, but because you placed something inside her mind that keeps pulling her back. A splinter of curiosity, of tension, of unfinished emotion she didn't even realize you created. And here's the strange part. When it works, she won't feel manipulated. She'll feel intrigued, drawn in, almost compelled to figure you out. In fact, most of the time, she'll believe the attraction was entirely her idea. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men never realize. Attraction rarely grows from what you give a woman. It grows from what her mind cannot resolve. And the technique I'm about to show you is built precisely around that principle. It's not taught in dating books. You won't hear it in psychology lectures. And even in the darker corners of the internet where men obsess over attraction strategies, almost nobody explains this mechanism correctly. Because this trick doesn't operate on the surface. It works beneath awareness, inside the small psychological loop that keeps replaying in her mind when you're gone. So let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some men disappear from a woman's memory in days, while others stay in her head for weeks, even when they did almost nothing? That difference is not luck, it's a trigger. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to activate that trigger, the one that makes her mind return to you again and again. But miss one small piece of this puzzle, and you'll end up exactly where most men do, in the graveyard of forgettable faces, the ones she scrolls past without a second thought. Here's the part nobody tells you about female desire, and if you've spent any time trying to do everything right, you've probably already felt this truth without understanding it. Desire does not respond to effort. It doesn't reward consistency. It doesn't care how good your intentions are. You can be respectful, attentive, emotionally available, and still watch her interest fade like smoke. Meanwhile, some other guy barely tries, says half as much, disappears for 2 days, and somehow she's thinking about him more than the man who did everything correctly. That contradiction drives a lot of men insane, because it feels unfair, it feels irrational. But there's a hidden mechanism underneath it. Desire feeds on one specific psychological experience, unfinished emotional tension. Think about how your own mind works for a second. When something feels finished, your brain relaxes, it categorizes it, files it away, moves on. Conversation ends, case closed, memory archived. But when something feels incomplete, your mind doesn't let go. It loops, again, and again, and again, like a song that cuts off before the final note, like a movie that fades to black right before the reveal, like a message she sends you and then suddenly stops replying. You know that feeling, that itch in the back of your mind. Your brain wants closure, it wants resolution. But the moment resolution is denied, attention becomes obsession. Psychology has a name for this, the Zeigarnik effect. But what most men never realize is that inside attraction, this effect becomes a weapon. And here's where most men sabotage themselves. They explain too much. They try to be transparent, helpful, impressive. They answer every question. They tell their entire life story in the first conversation. Their job, their goals, their childhood, their plans for the next 5 years. They close every psychological loop before her mind even has time to open one. And in doing that, they unknowingly erase themselves from her curiosity, because the mind cannot obsess over something that feels complete. The dirtiest seduction trick has nothing to do with what you give her. It's about what you almost give her, what you hint at, but never fully reveal, what you allow her to sense but never quite grasp. You become the unfinished sentence in her mind, the question mark that refuses to disappear, The man she tries to figure out when she's lying in bed scrolling her phone at 1:30 in the morning. And that's where obsession quietly begins. Now let's go deeper, because this next part is where things get uncomfortable for a lot of men. There's a concept I call void transfer. Most men will never understand it, because it contradicts everything they were taught growing up. You were told to prove yourself, to demonstrate value, to explain who you are, to show her why you're a good choice. But here's the brutal reality. Women rarely fall for who you actually are. They fall for who their mind imagines you might be. That difference is everything. The moment you reveal too much, you give her facts. And facts are limited. They can be analyzed, compared, judged. Okay, he works here. Okay, that's his lifestyle. Okay, that's what he earns. Once the puzzle is solved, interest declines, mystery dies, the moment the answer becomes obvious. But when there are gaps, when parts of you remain undefined, something fascinating happens. Her imagination activates, and the human imagination is infinitely more powerful than any story you could tell about yourself. Let me give you a simple example. A man meets a woman. She asks the standard question, "So, what do you do?" Most men instantly switch into resume mode. They start explaining job title, industry, responsibilities, ambitions. 5 minutes later, she knows everything and feels nothing. Now imagine a different response. She asks what you do. You pause for a second. Then you say something like, "I solve problems most people prefer to pretend don't exist." And you leave it there. No explanation, no clarification, just silence. Watch what happens next. Her brain immediately starts working. What kind of problems? Is he serious? Is he joking? Is he dangerous? Is he important? 10 questions appear where there used to be none. And here's the part most men miss. Whatever she imagines in that moment will be far more powerful than any literal explanation you could have given. Because imagination has no ceiling, but your biography does. Every woman carries a private fantasy in her mind, an internal template of the man who would dominate her attention, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. The mistake most men make is trying to perfectly match that fantasy, but that's impossible. The smarter move is leaving enough empty space for her to project that fantasy onto you. That's the void transfer. You're not convincing her. You're allowing her own mind to build the version of you she wants to believe in. It's psychological jujitsu. You're not pushing attraction. You're redirecting her imagination. And the more she invests her own mental energy into constructing that image of you, the more real it becomes in her mind. This is why the quiet man in the room often becomes the most intriguing one. He speaks less than expected. He reveals fragments instead of full stories. He answers questions with questions. He lets silence stretch just long enough that she fills it with assumptions. And those assumptions slowly turn into fascination. Because once her mind starts writing the story, you no longer need to convince her of anything. She will convince herself. And that is where real psychological leverage begins. Now let's talk about the second layer of this technique. This is the part almost no man understands the first time he hears it, because it goes directly against the instinct most men have when they feel attraction. I call this delayed revelation. And if you're honest with yourself, you've probably already seen the opposite happen in your own life. A man meets a woman he's attracted to. He feels the spark. And what does he do? He rushes forward. He starts texting more. He compliments her. He tries to make his intentions crystal clear. He thinks clarity equals confidence. But in reality, what he's doing is exposing his entire hand before the game has even started. And the moment you do that, something subtle shifts in her mind. The tension disappears. The mystery collapses. And once certainty enters the room, desire quietly walks out. Here's the brutal truth most men never hear. Desire does not grow inside certainty. It grows inside tension, inside unanswered questions, inside the quiet, uncomfortable space where her mind keeps asking, does he want me or not? Most men remove that question within minutes. They rush to reassure her. They rush to show interest. They rush to prove attraction. And every time you reveal your interest before she has invested emotionally, you give away leverage. You hand her psychological certainty. And certainty is the enemy of intrigue. Let me paint a familiar scene. A guy meets a woman at a bar. They talk for 20 minutes. She laughs. She touches his arm once, maybe twice. His brain instantly interprets that as green lights everywhere. So he escalates. "You're different. I really like your energy. We should definitely go out sometime." And suddenly something subtle changes in her eyes. You've seen it. That microscopic withdrawal. It's not dramatic, but it's there, because in her mind the dynamic just flipped. She no longer wonders whether she has your attention. She knows. And once she knows, the game loses electricity. Now contrast that with a man who understands delayed revelation. He feels attraction, but he doesn't rush to display it. He allows the tension to breathe. She laughs. He smiles, but doesn't chase the moment. She leans closer. He notices, but doesn't immediately reward it. She tries to read him, and suddenly a quiet psychological loop begins forming in her mind. What is he thinking? Does he like me? Why isn't he reacting the way other men do? And right there, a very subtle shift begins. She starts investing attention, and attention is the first currency of attraction. Think of it like emotional economics. Every moment she spends trying to decode you, every glance she replays in her mind, every small interaction she analyzes later, she's spending psychological energy. And the more energy she spends, the more she subconsciously wants a return on that investment. That's why the men who pull back slightly often trigger more pursuit, not because they're playing games, but because they understand something most men never learn. What you give freely has almost no perceived value. What requires effort, what requires curiosity, what requires pursuit, becomes psychologically expensive. And human beings protect what feels expensive. So how do you actually practice delayed revelation in the real world? It's simpler than most people think. When she shows interest, don't mirror it instantly. Acknowledge it, but don't amplify it. If she compliments you, don't rush to thank her like a man starved for validation. Receive it calmly, almost like it's normal, because to a man grounded in his own frame, admiration is not surprising. If she escalates energy, you stay steady, not cold, not rude, just unmoved. A quiet smile, a moment of eye contact. Almost as if you're saying without words, "I see what you're doing," and then you let the moment pass. That small void you leave behind becomes powerful, because nature hates empty space. And psychologically, she will feel the urge to fill it with more effort, more attention, more curiosity, more pursuit. Now here's where a lot of men misunderstand this concept. They hear this and think it's about manipulation, or games, or pretending to be someone you're not. That's shallow thinking. The deeper reason this works is biological. For thousands of years, women evolved under brutal conditions. Resources were limited. Protection mattered. Choosing the wrong man wasn't just embarrassing, it could be fatal. So the female brain evolved an unconscious screening system, a filter. And that filter asks one silent question: is this man valuable enough to choose, or desperate enough to avoid? When a man chases too fast, the answer becomes obvious. When he performs, the answer becomes obvious. When he tries too hard to impress, the answer becomes obvious. But when a man stands inside his own frame, unmoved by approval, unshaken by attention, comfortable with silence, something ancient inside her brain lights up. This one might be different, and difference is magnetic. Now let's talk about the third element. This is the one that separates the men women forget in days from the men they remember years later. I call it emotional anchoring through contrast. And once you understand this, you'll start seeing it everywhere. The human brain doesn't remember constants. It remembers changes, contrast, emotional spikes. If someone is always warm, warmth becomes invisible. If someone is always available, availability becomes background noise. If someone behaves exactly the same every time, the mind stops paying attention. Predictability is comfortable, but it's rarely memorable. Now think about the people who have stayed in your own memory, the ones you couldn't quite figure out, the ones who created emotional highs, followed by distance, followed by another unexpected moment of intensity. Those moments become psychological landmarks, and the same thing happens inside attraction. A man who is always available fades into the background of her life, but a man who creates emotional contrast, presence and absence, warmth and cool detachment, intensity followed by quiet distance, he becomes difficult to forget. Let me give you a real-world example. You meet a woman and have a conversation that's unusually deep, not surface-level small talk, real eye contact, real attention. You listen in a way most people don't. For a moment she feels seen, and that emotional spike registers in her nervous system. Then you disappear for a while. Not dramatically, not with explanation, just enough space for the absence to be noticed. Her brain compares the silence with the intensity she felt earlier, and that contrast creates tension. When you show up again later, you don't apologize, you don't over-explain, you simply bring that same grounded presence again. And now something interesting happens inside her mind. She remembers the emotional high. She felt the absence. Now she feels the intensity again. And suddenly the thought appears, I don't want to lose that feeling. And right there, obsession begins forming. Because attraction isn't only about what you give, it's also about what you withdraw and what you reintroduce. That oscillation creates powerful neurological patterns. Dopamine spikes, followed by dips, followed by spikes again. It's the same psychological loop that makes people pull the lever on a slot machine again and again. The same mechanism behind gambling, behind addictive games, behind almost every compulsive behavior. You're not forcing anything. You're simply activating the natural rhythm of anticipation and reward. And when that rhythm locks into her nervous system, you stop being just another man she met. You become a pattern her brain wants to repeat. Let me tell you about a man I once observed. We'll call him Marcus. Marcus wasn't the tallest guy in the room, not even close. He wasn't the richest either. No flashy watch, no designer suit screaming for attention. And he definitely wasn't the loudest. You know the type I'm talking about. The guy who walks into a room and immediately starts performing, talking too much, laughing too loudly, trying to prove he belongs. Marcus did none of that. If you looked at him for the first time, you might even underestimate him. Quiet posture, relaxed shoulders, almost indifferent to the chaos around him. But something strange happened whenever he entered a space. Women noticed, not instantly. That's the interesting part. It was gradual, like gravity. At first nothing, then small glances, then longer ones, then the subtle awareness that his presence had somehow shifted the atmosphere of the room. I watched him one night at a small gathering, music playing, people talking, the usual social dance. A woman approached him. You could tell immediately she was interested. The body language was obvious if you know what to look for. The slight lean forward, the way she touched his arm while laughing, the way her voice softened slightly when she spoke. Now watch what most men do in that moment. They light up, they lean in, they start trying to impress. Suddenly their voice changes, their posture shifts. They begin performing like a salesman trying to close a deal. Marcus did the opposite. He listened, not the fake listening most men do while waiting for their turn to talk. Real listening, still, focused. His eye contact was calm, steady, almost uncomfortably direct. He spoke very little, short answers, no explanations, no stories about himself unless she asked directly. And then something happened that most men would never have the discipline to do. Mid-conversation, he excused himself, not awkwardly, not apologetically, just calm. I need to go talk to someone for a moment. It was good meeting you, and he walked away. No lingering, no looking back, no attempt to secure a number, nothing. I watched her face when he left. First there was confusion, a flicker of it, like her brain was trying to process what just happened. Then something else appeared. Curiosity. And curiosity is one of the most dangerous emotional triggers in attraction. For the rest of the night, her eyes kept drifting toward wherever Marcus was standing. She tried to act normal, but the attention was there. Because he hadn't done what every other man does. He hadn't chased. He hadn't complimented her. He hadn't tried to prove himself. And most importantly, he hadn't given her certainty. And that uncertainty became the loudest thing in the room. Later that night, she approached him again. But this time the dynamic had shifted. Her posture was different, more open, more invested. She asked more questions. She leaned in more. She laughed a little harder. She was chasing. Marcus didn't change at all. Same calm presence, same minimal words, same quiet confidence, and the same willingness to walk away at any moment. 3 months later, I saw them together again. And the difference was striking. She was completely devoted to him, the kind of attention women rarely give unless they feel something deep. When I asked him what he did to make that happen, he laughed. Not arrogantly, just like someone who understood something most people don't. And he said a sentence that stayed with me. I didn't try to make her like me. He paused. I just made it difficult for her to forget me. That's it. That's the entire mechanism. Void transfer, delayed revelation, emotional anchoring. 3 psychological forces working together. Now here's the part you need to understand at a deeper level. This isn't about becoming some manipulative character. It's about stripping away the desperate behaviors society programmed into you. From the time you were a boy, you were trained to behave a certain way. Be nice, be agreeable, share your feelings, express interest openly, chase what you want. That conditioning works perfectly for friendship. But inside attraction, it quietly destroys your leverage. Because attraction is not polite. It's primal. It doesn't care about your good intentions. It responds to power dynamics, to perceived value, to subtle signals that reveal whether a man needs approval or stands independent of it. Every time you over-explain yourself, you lose power. Every time you justify your behavior, you shrink your presence. Every time you look for reassurance in her eyes, you confirm a silent suspicion inside her mind. Maybe he's not that valuable after all. But when a man holds his frame, when he remains calm under attention, when he allows uncertainty to exist without rushing to resolve it, something ancient activates inside her nervous system. It's not logical, it's not rational. Her body reacts before her mind has time to analyze it, and that's the dirtiest part of this entire technique. She will feel something happening. She'll sense that you affect her differently. But she won't be able to clearly explain why, because by the time her conscious mind tries to understand it, she's already emotionally invested. Now I need to give you a warning. This technique requires something most men don't actually have. And without it, everything I've explained collapses. You need genuine abundance mentality. Not the fake version, not the performance, the real thing. If you're pretending to be detached while internally craving her approval, she will feel it. Women are extremely sensitive to incongruence. They had to be. For thousands of years, their survival depended on reading subtle signals in men. Tone of voice, micro-expressions, energy shifts. They can detect when a man's behavior doesn't match his internal state. So this cannot be a mask. It has to be real. You must actually be willing to walk away. You must actually care more about your mission, your life, your direction, than about whether she approves of you. Her interest has to be a bonus, not oxygen. If you don't have that foundation yet, build it first. Develop a purpose. Build a life that gives you momentum without female validation. Become the kind of man who doesn't need to perform because his existence already carries weight. Then something interesting happens. You stop trying to create attraction, and attraction begins forming around you naturally. Because the real secret behind all of this isn't the technique. The real secret is the man who embodies it. And that's the transformation most men never make. They want the results, the attention, the obsession, but they refuse to become the man who naturally generates those reactions. And that is why most of them remain invisible. Let's get practical for a moment, because theory is useless if you don't know how to execute it in real life. So the next time you're in an interaction with a woman and things are going well, I want you to try something most men psychologically cannot do. Leave before you want to. Not abruptly, not in a way that feels rude or awkward, but before the moment reaches its natural peak, before the conversation runs out of oxygen, before you've revealed everything about yourself, before she knows exactly where she stands with you. Most men stay too long. They keep talking until the energy flattens out, until the tension disappears, until the mystery dissolves into familiarity. And by the time they leave, the emotional charge that could have lingered in her mind is already dead. You're going to do the opposite. You leave while the energy is still rising, while she's laughing, while the conversation still has momentum, while she's leaning slightly closer than she was 10 minutes ago. That moment, right there, is where most men make the mistake of staying. Because their ego wants confirmation, their ego wants to secure the number, their ego wants reassurance that the attraction is mutual. But a man who understands psychological tension knows something deeper. You don't need to secure the moment, you need to leave a mark on it. So instead of squeezing the interaction until it's dry, you cut it short, calmly, almost casually. Hey, I need to run for a bit, but it was good talking to you. And you leave. No over-explanation, no awkward lingering, just a quiet exit while the energy is still alive. Now something interesting happens in her mind. The conversation never got its natural conclusion. The emotional momentum was interrupted mid-flight, and her brain does what the human brain always does with unfinished experiences. It tries to resolve them. She'll replay small details, the way you looked at her, the pauses in your conversation, that moment where you smiled slightly but didn't explain why. And suddenly a thread forms, a psychological thread that remains attached to you even after you've walked away. Now let's talk about texting, because this is where men destroy everything they created in person. You've seen it. The guy who seemed calm and grounded during the interaction suddenly turns into a different person on his phone. She sends a message, and within 30 seconds, he replies. Then another message, then another. Suddenly the mysterious man she met has become permanently available. Instant access, instant validation, instant predictability. And just like that, the intrigue collapses. Here's the principle you need to internalize. When she texts you, your response time should reflect the reality of your life, not your excitement. If your phone is the center of your world, she'll feel it. But if you're actually busy, working, building something, focused on your own direction, then her message simply becomes one small element inside a much larger life. You respond when you naturally have the space to respond. Not because you're trying to play a game, but because she genuinely isn't the center of your attention yet. When you do reply, you stay present, engaged, but concise. You answer what she asked without opening 10 new explanations. You leave small spaces in the conversation, questions unanswered, details unexplored, the sense that there's more beneath the surface. But she's only seeing fragments. Now let's talk about something most men are terrified of. Silence. In person, silence is one of the most powerful psychological tools you have. But most men panic the moment it appears. You've seen it happen. The conversation pauses for 3 seconds, and suddenly the guy starts talking again. Random topics, nervous jokes, anything to avoid that quiet space. But silence is not your enemy. Silence is pressure, and pressure reveals investment. The next time a pause appears in conversation, don't rush to fill it. Let it exist. Let the moment breathe. Maintain eye contact. Relax your posture. Let the tension sit there for a few seconds. Something fascinating will happen. She'll feel the need to fill it. She'll start talking, explaining, sharing more than she originally intended. Because silence pulls information out of people, and when you remain calm inside that silence, you communicate something powerful without saying a single word. You're not seeking approval. You're not trying to entertain. You're comfortable simply existing, and that alone separates you from most men she meets. Now let's talk about the psychology behind all this, because underneath these behaviors is a mechanism that is brutally simple. The human brain prioritizes unfinished things, open loops, unresolved tensions. This is why you remember the woman who disappeared without explanation more vividly than the one who gave you closure. This is why rejection lingers longer than acceptance. Completion brings peace, but peace is forgettable. What stays in the mind is the almost, the unfinished conversation, the moment that felt like it was about to become something and then stopped. When you become that unresolved question in her mind, you occupy psychological space that no other man can easily replace. She'll think about you when she's at work, when she's driving home, when she's out with friends and something reminds her of the conversation you had. And the most frustrating part for her will be this: she won't fully understand why, because the mechanism operates below conscious awareness. It lives in the part of the brain that existed long before logic, before social narratives, before people started explaining attraction through polite language. It speaks to something older, the instinctive part of the feminine psyche that responds to mystery, to strength, to the man who stands independent of her validation, the man who doesn't need her, but might choose her. And that distinction is everything. So here's the truth most dating advice will never tell you. This trick works not because it's manipulative, but because it aligns with psychological reality, with the way desire actually forms beneath the surface. Most advice tells you to do more, say more, prove more, show more, chase more. This method is the opposite. Be less accessible, chase less, reveal less, need less. And in the empty space you create, her imagination will construct something far more powerful than anything you could have tried to present directly. You won't have to convince her to want you. She'll convince herself. And that's why this mechanism rarely fails. Not because it's cruel, but because it's true. Now let me ask you something honestly. If you've spent years doing the opposite, chasing, explaining, trying to prove you're worthy of being chosen, how has that strategy worked for you so far? If you're ready to change that pattern, if you're ready to stop asking for attention and start becoming the kind of man who naturally generates it, then you already know what the next step is. You've seen the map. Now you walk the territory. Stop filling every silence. Start leaving moments unfinished. Stop offering certainty. Start creating intrigue. Stop performing for approval. Start embodying presence. Because the woman you want isn't waiting for another man who tries too hard. She's waiting for the one who makes her try. Become that man. Before you leave, there's something important I want you to keep in the back of your mind. Because what you learned today, the unfinished tension, the silence, the mystery, that's only one piece of the puzzle. There's another layer most men never even realize exists, and it's the moment that quietly decides everything. In the next video, I'm going to break down the one test she gives without even realizing she's giving it, that determines whether she sees you as temporary or irreplaceable. It's subtle. Most men completely miss it. And the way you respond in that moment can either kill attraction instantly or lock it in permanently. If you think you understand the game now, wait until you see that. That video goes live tomorrow. And if you're serious about understanding how attraction actually works beneath the surface, you'll want to be here when it drops. Now, there's something else you should do before you leave. If this video opened your eyes to how psychological tension creates attraction, then the next video appearing on your screen right now goes even deeper into that same hidden dynamic. It shows another pattern most men unknowingly sabotage, and once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere, so don't leave yet. Click the video on your screen right now and keep watching. And if you want more content like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and drop a like on the video. It helps this message reach the men who actually need to hear it. Most men will never understand the game, but you do. I'll see you among the few.